Hi, I'd like to welcome everyone out to the call today. My name is Courtney Moses, and I will be facilitating the call today. Last week I had a really interesting experience. I was on Facebook, and one of our great leaders and dear friend of mine, Julianne Ellis, had got on there and did a Facebook Live video. And it was really interesting. As she's sitting there describing her experience and her little message, I was just crying, and I just thought, oh, my word, like this woman just totally rocked my world in just a few seconds. And it really got me thinking about things, her message. And what happened is she made a commitment to her maker, to her higher power, God that she refers to work out and take care of her body 6 days a week. And last week, David and Julianne and Janet and Bernie and Kristen Fox were all doing this booth, and I think Allie Baker, we're all doing this booth in Kansas City. And so they're, working, 10, 15 hours a day, and then she's got her baby with her, and, finally gets her baby down. At 1 o'clock in the morning, she goes and works out at the hotel. And then she gets on Facebook and tells everyone, that she had done that and to be committed to your goals. And it really just kind of took me a little bit because I just thought, wow, I don't know that I would be able to do that. I mean, I might be able to say, yeah, that's, I do have this goal, but, this is what's happening right now in my life, so I'm just going to not work out these few days, and God would be okay with that. You know what I mean? And what I realized with her in that moment is that the accountability that she had and that commitment she had to her God to do that was so strong and at such a high level that regardless of any circumstance throughout that week, she was still going to stick to it. And I don't think that she realized how many people are probably impacted by her just getting on Facebook and telling people what she had done. And it wasn't out of a state of bragging rights or anything like that, but pure humility. And it really got me thinking about accountability. And then I started thinking about, okay, well, I had this goal to lose a certain amount of weight and to have a certain amount of body percent fat, all of this. And then I hired a personal trainer, and I was doing really good. And I got down to about, 12 pounds before my goal, and I was about 3% off on the body fat I wanted. And then I moved. I moved to a different city in April, and I didn't have that personal trainer anymore, and I completely lost track of that goal. And listening to Julianne share her experience, it made me realize that I no longer had that accountability. I didn't have that trainer anymore, and there was nothing. I didn't make that commitment to anyone else. The only accountability, the only commitment I made was to my trainer. I didn't even really make it to myself. And so after Julianne shared that message, I went and interviewed, and I hired another personal trainer. Just thought, I need that accountability. And I don't know what it is about accountability that as I sat there and thought about the goals in my life, whether it's physical or emotional or spiritual or doTERRA or goals with my family, if there wasn't a person that I was holding accountability to, having them hold me accountable, I rarely, if ever, hit those goals. I can't think of one that I achieved without accountability. So today on the call, I really just want to dive into accountability and how to be able to use that through our businesses to go after our goals. So my first question to the mastermind is, how would you define accountability? How would you describe that? What comes to your mind when you think about accountability?
Pain.
Did you say pain? Is that what you just said?
Pain. Yeah, no, accountability, look, accountability is the secret to success, but it's also the thing that everyone avoids like crazy, because no one wants to be accountable. Accountable, I think, means responsible. It means that you're accountable, you're responsible for your situation. And so there's plenty of people who are very successful by telling people that they're not accountable. And there's plenty of people that are successful telling people they are. So, it's just, but ultimately, I think accountable means it means that in doTERRA, it means that you are, when you pick someone to be accountable to, it means that you need help keeping your commitments, and because you recognize that, you find someone to help you keep the promises that you make to yourself and others, because for some reason we tend to be the people that we most easily let down. Like, we break our commitments to ourselves so easily. But it's very difficult to break our commitments to others, and so I think that's kind of why we get, like in your case, when you're talking about getting a personal trainer, it's like, oh yeah, I'm all for having a six-pack until I see that burger, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no.
Yeah, well, I think you bring up a few really good points, Seth. Like, I think that having accountability to someone is a sign of respect for ourselves and for our own goals, because it's hard to hold yourself to that level of honesty at times, or that level of accountability, right? I think about just even in the beginning stages when I was building my business, and when I was throwing my goal out there, when I was being vulnerable and open and just, holding myself accountable to my team and being like, hey, I'm doing this. This is what I want. I actually reached my goals a lot quicker and easier than I do now when I can hide behind myself, right? And I don't have to throw it out there, and I don't have to be vulnerable. And so I think that, that accountability also exposes us, right? And also, I think, brings a level of respect to ourselves and to our goals. And so it can be, really, really difficult. The other thing you brought up was, kind of made me think of like a victim state, right? So when I think of accountability, let's just get real. I think that, we as a culture have this attitude of saying that we're victims, right? And so if it's somebody else's fault if we're not getting or experiencing the things that we want in life, right? And of course we want to be able to show compassion and empathy, and we want to be able to vent and share our struggles and our feelings to other people, but we've almost done that to the exclusion of responsibility and accountability, right? So it's like, look, if you're saying you're a victim, then everything is outside of your control. And that's not empowering at all. And you can't make a difference, right? So you're constantly being pushed around and, surrounded by things that are outside of your control. But once you accept accountability, then suddenly everything becomes within your control, and you are the one that can make a difference. And that can be very freeing, but it also can be very scary, because that means you have to own all of that. You have to own your mistakes and, the hardships,
hey,
and all
Courtney.
of that.
Hey, Court.
Yeah.
Let me just share one thought with you while you're bringing this up, because I think you're dead on. Like, okay. So we're all very afraid of being accountable, because we don't want to know that the answer to all of our problems lies within our own hands. But I'll tell you that in my life, and I make this a challenge to everybody on the call, whoever listens to this, everything, like the minute that you take full accountability, full responsibility for your life as it is, like just take the blame, whatever it is, like embrace it. Your successes, your failures, your hurts, your pains, your joys, embrace it all, and just be like, I am responsible for what's happened in my life. I'm responsible. And the minute that you do that, it's so the initial emotion is fear, because you don't want to be responsible for everything. And I should say that, with the exception of extreme things like abuse and things like that, but like, I am responsible, right? And if that's the case, the next emotion you'll feel when you actually own all of that, you may go through like a grieving process when you realize, oh man, it's my fault that my life is the way it is, or maybe you'll be happy that you're like, it's my choices. But what happens is that then there's this feeling of excitement that comes after you get past kind of the sadness, because you go, it's, therefore, I can do something about it. It isn't anyone else's fault. And that's a really powerful thing that happens. And I remember when I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a loser because of me. It's me, you know. and then after that, I was like, and I can change it, like you know, and that was a massive thing. And part of, and kind of going back to where you were kind of taking the call to begin with, it's like, and because I can change it, because I realize I can change it, and I also realize that it's my fault that it hasn't turned out the way that I want it to be, I might need other people to help hold me accountable through the process. Because I realize that I haven't been good at that before. And so, like, look, I mean, if you're a, you know, well, Melissa Gutta, you may have to, maybe you could, but, you know, Melissa here, she is an Olympic athlete type person. I imagine that she has gotten so good at holding herself accountable to her physical fitness and health and wellness. Maybe she doesn't need a trainer. I don't know. She can answer that. But it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if she needed less accountability than me when I'm still really craving that Coke, right?
Right.
So,
right. Well, and it's true. I think you do probably get to a certain spot where you're like, okay, I now created these habits in place that now I don't need this accountability, but maybe I need a different level of accountability. You know, like me and Melissa and Rod were out one night at convention, and she left to go to bed, and me and Rod were still up, and I turned to Rod and I said, I don't know how she does that. And it was Saturday night, so it was the last day of convention even, you know, and I'm like, she's so disciplined with her sleeping regimen. Like, she inspires me, you know. I'm like, I just don't have that self-control in that area. You know, so I imagine there's different areas of life where you need that accountability and even want it, right? Because first I have to say that I want the accountability to get to sleep, right? But, you know,
exactly.
Melissa, please chime in. You know, she does this because of her goals with her sports and health and wellness, you know. All right. Thank you. Melissa, go ahead.
Well, I love this topic, and, you know, as you guys are, you know, I guess talking about my, you know, what does Melissa do and where is she at with all of this? You know, you know, what I've found in my life is that there's certain areas where I absolutely benefit from having accountability. And then there's certain areas where, and I think for all of us, we go through an evolution where we become very self-accountable. And we don't have to look for an accountability outside of ourselves. And for myself, what I've found is when I get to that point in a certain area of my life, which with my health and my fitness and my athletic goals, absolutely self-accountable. And part of it has to do with how bad I want the results and how strong my desire and my vision is for that goal. And the deeper that desire, the stronger and more intense it is, the less I need accountability outside of myself. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, that's really fascinating.
It ties back to our why, right? And they say, well, when your why is big enough, the how just works itself out. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like when you want it so, like, as bad as you want oxygen, you know, if somebody had your head, was holding your head under the water, you would want oxygen so bad you would do anything to get it. That's the way I feel about certain goals, such as my goals for my fitness and my athletics. Is like, I see where I want to be, and I want it more than I want, or as much as I want oxygen, I don't have to be accountable to anybody. That desire is within me, and it causes me to take the right actions every day that move me closer to that goal.
Wow, I appreciate that. So I have a follow-up question with you then. So I guess in that time then, the accountability still just falls on you. Like you're just making that commitment and that accountability to yourself, right? And so you make sure and put things in place to hold yourself accountable to that, right? So you're going to have I'm sure you're going to be good about, setting bedtimes. I guess what I'm saying is, even though that why is there, you still put things in your place to hold you accountable to that, right? Like this is when I go to bed, this is when I wake up, this is the types of food I'm going to eat, this is the amount of exercise I'm going to do this day. Like all of that is laid out very, very clear that there's no guessing game in how you're going to live your life that day, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. I love that. All right. Thank you. Okay, we've got a caller here, 208 ending in 1986. What is your name and what's your comment?
Coffee Baker. Hi.
How are you?
My comment, I'm pretty good. So my take on all this, when you ask when you hear, accountability, what do you think of what you hear? And my first thing is owning up. Accountability makes me own up for not only my successes, but also my failure. Well, I don't like the word failure. I'll say hiccups. Hiccups in the process to success. And that was always a big thing. I love to be challenged. I love when they're like, okay, like the Olympics, that they held just recently with the 361 and all that stuff. I just, yes, okay, track my points, track this, go, 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 go. And then when the Olympics ends, then I stop doing stuff. And it wasn't until last week that I realized when I have a 6 weeks course, I am accountable. I own up to everything. If I don't make my points that day, or if I just rocked my points and succeeded with, fireworks and everything, I own it. And on the points to where I have hiccups, those that I'm accountable to come in with advice, that's okay. You didn't get your points. Why don't you try this the next day? And then you better believe I apply that the next day and I get my points and things. And so it was last week that I had that aha moment of I have to be accountable to myself. And that's why I love listening to Melissa and you guys that have sustained that personal accountability. Because if I want my business to go rock solid, I'm not going to constantly be in these 6 week courses. Well, I could if I had $1 million and paid for them all the time. But so I'm not going to constantly be in a 6 week course that has these people holding me accountable. What I've learned is I've learned what they give to me, and now I need to give that to myself. They're still there for support, but until I give that to myself, when I'm out of the course, I'm not going to be pushing myself forward. And so I just love owning up to myself, looking at myself in the mirror. Mirror therapy has been amazing for me and being well, Kathy, you know what? You didn't reach your goal today, so tomorrow you need to wake up and get started and do it better. And so being accountable, owning up to ourselves where we need to be better. And it is scary, like Seth said, it's frightening to know that, I failed because I'm the one that failed. I'm the one that didn't get out of my house today. And so I do. Yeah. I think everybody, once they master or work on that self-owning up, that self-accountability, everything in life kind of just motivates you to where you're not going to need somebody else motivating you.
I appreciate that. I think you bring up some really good points. You make heavy use of the pronoun I, when you're talking, that you're saying, what can I learn from this? What can I do to improve my results? You know what I mean? And I really like that you're doing that because I think that shows what you're talking about is that owning up, right? And so it's if you're not getting the results you want from teaching classes, what can you do to fix it, right? And I think so often we hear people wanting to put that blame on other people, and you brought that up. And so I love that you brought that up and that you were so good about using that word I so often, because I think that, we all can learn from that. But that's one of the first things of taking accountability is that ownership and asking yourself, I didn't get those points. What can I do next week to fix that? I love how you brought that up. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, Bernie, you're up. Where did you go, Bernie?
Can you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
Perfect. Hey, I really like the call. It's been good. I recently started listening to Jack Canfield's Success Principles. I've heard it for the last, 3 or 4 years, and so finally bit the bullet, got on Audible, started listening to it. It's been amazing, especially with the timing of accountability that the call on today. One of the things that I really like that I've listened to so far in reference to accountability is you guys have talked about the I, and then an object lesson that he shared that Janet and I actually talked about last night we're going to start doing is in his trainings he sets up a deal where every time you whine, complain, or make excuses, you have to put $2 into a jar. And he doesn't do it with the intent of you like, I'm spending my money, but just realizing how much that really costs you in the end. And so I know for me, that's going to be a good object lesson because a lot of times, I hear the words and I'm like, yep, that's cool. But then when I actually see the effects of my unaccountability and things that I put off or procrastinate on like we all do, then to that object lesson, I think it's going to really hit home because so far I'm like, man, I'm going to spend $2. We haven't started yet, but just thinking just in the last, since this morning, how many times I've made excuses or whined or complained about something, just in my mind, how much that's costing. I'm like, oh man, it's going to be a good lesson. So I just know that as we are able to be accountable and take on responsibilities for our successes and our challenges, then things are really going to start to turn in our lives, not only in business, but personal as well.
Yeah, and I want to just add a little bit to that too, Bernie. I don't think it's just a matter of, not complaining and stuff, but I think it's just also sometimes we go to that like remorse. Well, man, I just really regret I did this, or that self-pity, and we beat ourselves up, right? I mean, so sometimes we could be complaining about someone else or casting blame on them, or it could be just that remorse and self-pity that we cast on ourselves, right? And it is so unproductive, and it's a total waste of time, and it takes you back to that victim mindset. But I do believe that there needs to be a little bit of that because we need to be able to go through the process and say, okay, what went well and what didn't go well and what can I learn from that? But we need to be able to do that in a place that isn't negative, right? That it's like I'm asking myself these questions. I'm going through this process so I can identify, how to improve and put, accountability and responsibility where it needs to go, but not stay in that victim mindset of that remorse or self-pity or complaining, right? So I think it's important that to allow yourself to go through that process to learn, but don't stay there to the point that you're complaining or casting self-pity or anything else like that. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. That's a great point. I like it.
All right. Let's see. Alonso, you're next.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I also love this topic. And the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to accountability is the idea of priority. So when you're talking about things that are really high priority in your life, it's almost there's like no need for accountability because you do it already automatically. So like when it comes to say like the example of Melissa, like she is so like she puts like health and wellness and training and all that stuff at such a high priority that the accountability is built in automatically. And I also asked the question, why are people so against accountability? So what is like the mindset, or what is the thinking, what is the paradigm behind accountability? And when you look at it, it's usually like when Seth first said like pain, that is what we feel. Like that's what we attach the word accountability. That's what it means to us predominantly because that's how it's been kind of thought of as the thing of what people think of in the past, like how our parents would attach like that word to. It's always like a punishment when it comes to hearing that word. That it's never this like, oh, I didn't know that you could, with accountability, you could now actually prioritize like the things that are most important to you, and you can actually accomplish these things that are most important to you with accountability, with alignment of what you're going to say and do the things that are in alignment with that. And it's just shining a light on what this word means and what is the typical thought when it comes to like this word. And it's amazing that we're talking about this so that we can have another perspective. We can have another idea brought upon of why accountability is important.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you get to a point where you are at that stage where you're self-accountable, like you don't need anyone else to kind of guide you towards the things that you want to happen or need to happen, now you become a credible person. You have integrity. And with that integrity, you gain the following of people that are looking for that type of leadership, that type of person out in front doing the things that need to get done.
Right. I appreciate that. So, I think as we talk about this, you brought up a really good point, like, why is accountability important? And I like what you're saying, Alonta. I'm trying to get my head around it because I'm sitting here going, well, I feel like certain things are a priority to me, but I feel like my health is a priority to me, but yeah, I still need that accountability. So and so I'm just sitting here going, is it really just priority? Or like I'm trying to sit here and like process that. So you got me thinking on that. But I think, if we want to become leaders, you brought this up, and influencers and be able to have like that maximum, impact on people, then I think we have got to learn the skill of accountability. And I think that's really what sets us apart as leaders, especially in this culture of victimhood that is around in the world so much right now, So let's get specific then in our business. Like, what are some actions and what do we need to do to have accountability in our doTERRA business, right? We talked about like, well, don't blame others and stuff like that. How many of us have gotten frustrated and maybe under our breath or maybe, open mouth and said things like, well, if this leader would just do this, then I would be at this rank or something. If this leader would have just taught this class, then I would have had better results. You know what I mean? So what is it in our business? What actions can we take to show and take that accountability? All right, David, go ahead.
Okay. So, Courtney, can you unmute Jody Risenmay's line?
Uh-huh.
Okay, she just came in while we were talking. She wrote something down on a piece of paper, and she was hesitant to share it. So I thought I'm going to call her out. She's going to share it. So, Jody, your line is unmuted on her
end. She did
end.
not raise her hand. She's unmuted.
No, but she needed to, and so I'm encouraging her to. Go ahead, Jody.
Fantastic.
Okay. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Tony Robbins says that we don't get our shoulds, we get our musts. Which means, of course, that, well, okay, so for instance, I have no problem getting myself up to go out and run. But when it comes to going out and finding the oils, that scares me because I feel inadequate and I feel like even if I talk to them that it's not going to do any good, then I'm not going to have any success. So I have been working on
Sorry, I
feel
barely hear you.
confident.
It's like bad connection here. Can you hear me? Are you there? Oh, I hate this. Jody, if you can hear us, we cannot hear you. It's a really bad connection. Okay. David, are you there with her?
Here. It's just up to you. All right, so what did you hear?
I didn't hear very much. So you're talking about Tony Robbins said you get your what did you say, your shoulds, not your musts? Or
Your must. Yeah, you don't get your shoulds, you get your musts.
Uh-huh. Yep. And
so,
then you started talking about things when you feel inadequate.
Yeah. And so because I feel like when I go out and I talk to people that I'm not going to have success, then that makes it a lot less likely that I'm going to do that. And so I have been working on self-development. And I listen to Tony Robbins, and I listen to Jack Canfield, and I listen to Joe Dispenza. Anyway, I listen to all these different people that give me understanding of how my brain works so that I can hopefully be successful in that area because, well, anyway, it all kind of goes together, you know, but all of these people that teach about success principles, I need to hear it from a lot of different points of view so that my brain will actually latch on to that and it will become a reality because my subconscious brain is obviously what is holding me back because it's not that I don't want to do it and it's not that I haven't been trying to do it. It's that my subconscious brain is money's bad or I don't deserve it or whatever. And so self-development is what I've been working on. And I just hope one of these days it's going to help translate to success.
Well, it absolutely will. Definitely keep up on that. All right, Tiana, you are back.
I am. Sorry about that. I lost the call right as I raised my hand. It was irritating. So I actually kind of want to combine. I'm really glad that Jody spoke before me because I want to combine what Alonto said along with what she said. Because when I first heard Alonto say that you do what you accomplish and you're self-accountable for those things that you prioritize. And at first that made me angry. I'm like, excuse me? How could you say that? And then I thought about it a little bit more. Like, you know, he gave the example of Melissa and how she's self-accountable for those things. And if you think about it, she has the feeling of a must priority in combining Jody and Alonto's train of thoughts. Those things are a must thing for her, and the feeling is different. When you're learning how to be accountable, you have to learn how to feel accountability, and like you were saying, as a positive notion. And so a should priority is, oh, I should do this. I want to do it. This is something that, you know, I really, really will change my life. It's got a different feeling to it. And so those must priorities of that, this has got to happen or my life is going to implode kind of a thing. Right. It has a different feeling. And so when you're learning how to be self-accountable and reach those moments where you're like, yeah, I don't need someone else to tell me to do this, you have to let go of the things that are replacing that priority. Those feelings of, you know, I really don't feel like doing that because this is terrifying. I'm scared to go and talk to these people. I'm scared for this rejection. That rejection is literally replacing your feeling of desiring and accomplishing things. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so this is something that I have been struggling with for 4 years. And my doTERRA journey has been about 5. So the majority of my doTERRA journey has been this accountability. And so I'm reaching a lot of really new heights and understanding what it means to feel priority and to feel accountability and to utilize the people who love me and, like Bryant and Brianna, and really truly act in that space of, yeah, it's still okay to have somebody that I'm accountable to. Melissa still has a coach. Even though she is self-accountable, she still has a coach. She still has somebody there, So having somebody that you're still accountable to in a sense is a very positive thing. Even though a lot of those things that you do, that, you're self-accountable for. So anyway, those are my thoughts on it. And in connecting that to doTERRA, it is all about releasing a lot of those negative things that are replacing your ability to prioritize and accomplish those must things.
Right. Thank you. A lot of that comes down to all the personal development. Okay, we have a few more hands. We're going to shift the call a little bit. Let's do Virginia Hume, and then Norma, you're up after her.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead, Virginia.
Okay. Using the journaling that, and as you work with your 631 to make sure you're putting your time where you need to put it, and identify where your weak area is. And I find a daily write out what my focus needs to be the next day so I focus my energy better. At the same time, be flexible when an opportunity presents itself, or if I have a leader to call that needs some encouragement, that I focus in nurturing the people, and the other stuff will come, just nurture and keep doing the basics. And I so appreciate everybody's input, and I just keep learning from all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Virginia. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was actually one of the things what I thought about too. I have noticed that when I use the app on a weekly basis, my results and my activity level is higher, and it's at the place I want it to be. But when I'm not on that, or I'm not in that competition, then they drop a little, right? And that's terrible. And I'm still trying to work through all of that myself, which is why I love these calls. We can learn from each other. But I have found that even having the Daily Edge app, on my phone and using that, being accountable to that, has even helped me get greater results. Norma, you're next.
So I've got so many thoughts swimming through my head. Let me see if I can organize it here. From when Alonso spoke, I was inspired with something, and thank you, Jody and Tiana, because that all contributed. So here's an interesting thought: is that I heard in Jody's talk, I believe it was. I mean, she and Melissa are fantastic with taking care of themselves. Me, not so much right now. You trying, me not so much right now. It's a season. I know I'm coming up against, trying to take better care of myself, and there's a dialogue going on about that. I appreciate Alonso because he's opened up this conversation for me to be able to talk with him about things of leadership, and I think he hit on something really key, is becoming the person who will be the leader for those that follow. So as I develop, I become that leader for those that are attracted to me and follow. And something that Jody said that caught my attention was, and not to make anything wrong, it's just how I figured out what to say today, is she mentioned going out to talk to people. I don't really take on going out to talk to people. I go out to be with people or interact with people. And I think if we could bring the bar down to the lowest common denominator, is that if we are inspired that our must, for me, the oils are a must for every family, because I had anxiety and I didn't want to have others be in that scary space without knowing the possibility that within 3 to 4 minutes time they could have the success of going from what I did, like a 911 kind of feeling, to feeling okay. So I had that experience of I must tell everyone that I know that's stressed out, not sleeping, trying to build their business or gain something professionally or relationally. I must tell them and share with them or let them know about these oils. But if I took that passion out to the marketplace, I would have repelled every one of my friends and family to run away from me. So instead of going out that way, I stand like a very firm, committed person, knowing that within 3 or 4 minutes I went from what I thought was a 911 feeling of anxious feelings to a feeling of I'm okay, staring at these oils that I had disrespected. Like, oh my goodness, what are these really good for? They are good for way more than I thought. And I stand there in that confidence knowing that I'm inspired as a leader to be holding a candle, a lighthouse in the world of darkness, and I attract people that want to come and put their candle up to mine and light their candle from mine. I'm not a blowtorch. I'm not going out to tell everyone about it. I'm not a motivated person that's even consistent about my activities necessarily. I just continue to stand firm in my commitment and my love for others that they should know if they still want to have the lighthouse, that I'm offering, the candle light that they can get from me. So I think if we can be inspiring people, then we can help them to come into that self-accountability, because once you're inspired, you put your priorities where your must is. I must share this with people. I must get the message into every home. And Shannon Checklitz was the one who just nailed my coffin to doing this as far as being committed to doTERRA, because the very next month she spoke about baby Liberty, and baby Liberty would have had a terrible hospital visit without having knowledge and oils into Shannon Checklitz's hands in order to be able to take care of her baby when she got whooping cough. And she already had a frail immune system anyway. So when I had my own experience, and then I saw another mother that I could relate to, because I had a baby that was 2 weeks back in the hospital right after we delivered her with RSV. She had to go into the hospital with pneumonia. So I could put myself as a mom in Shannon's seat, and I could sit in that hospital room hearing the doctors telling her that her daughter was going to die, 80% chance she was going to die, and that she had no other thing to do but to ask, can I use these oils? And the medical practice didn't know about it. They weren't aware of it, so he said no. And she did what I would have done. As soon as the door shut, she got out oregano and thyme and started working to support the body against the virus that had attacked her daughter. And so when I hear that and I think about things, I'm like, I must touch, every family and teach a mom and share with anyone that has anxiety or any kind of stressful feelings or feels like they've lost their identity in their profession or their career or their relationships. I must go interact with those people, whether it be on the phone or Facebook or to a meeting or whatever. But I don't go out telling them. I just go out to be with them. And in that being with them, it takes 2 seconds or 3 minutes. And before you know it, they're attracted to that candle that I have, and they want to light the candle. And then at that point, I make the appointment from it. So it's so much more of an inside job than we give it credit for. And that will be the same inside job that will help me to reform my own personal health, which I've been there before. I've done it before, and I know it came from the inside. So if we can really look to inspire ourselves and to then be inspiring to others, then I don't know that we have to be so rigid about accountability. And the reason I was thinking of this is I had a coach one time that told me about organizing my office. And I'm a piler. I pile things, and I know right where they are. But the minute you put them into a folder and file system and throw them into a drawer, I can't find them. I can't remember the system I filed them under. I don't see them. They're not important. They're out of sight, out of mind. So I just decided years ago not to be organized. I decided to allow my organizational weakness to not be the thing I focus on, and to instead to focus on my strengths, which are to love and to inspire others and to encourage others. And I believe I attracted doTERRA because it fits that so perfectly. So, sometimes we don't have to change who we are. We just need to be who we are. And if you'll just give yourself permission to be the best you can be, then you'll find the inspiration inside of you. Or you need to work with someone maybe to find the inspiration. I think that's more than motivation, right? Because it comes from the inside and it's never ceasing.
Right. Thank you, Norma. So I want, we don't have a lot of time left. So we're going to go to Janet Marquez, and then I want to ask all the diamonds and above on the call, how you practice accountability in your business, right? And so there's lots of different ways to practice this. There's lots of different ways to have that accountability and to be able to go through that and help give advice to all those on the call. So Janet, we'll come to you first, and then we're going to go to Julianne, and then David, and then Desiree, Alonto, Bernie, and then Seth. All right? All right, go ahead, Janet. Oh,
awesome. Oh, okay.
Janet, go ahead and add to that too.
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I was going to say. So you're right on. Norma, I want to thank you for what you said, because it's spot on. I want to bring attention to the belief triangle, because there is a necessary place for accountability. We can't just kind of and not that anybody is even saying that at all. We can't, it's not that we don't need it. It's just that there's a place for it. If you think about the belief triangle, belief or faith, you have your faith first, which then leads to work. That is the space where accountability is so necessary because it's where you're building your skill. It's like it's the time where you're like, I really, really hope this works. And I need the motivation. You know, I need to know that I'm doing the right thing. I need to know, you know, that's where the app is necessary. And any kind of accountability that you put in place is necessary because you're just moving because you have this vision. Then what Norma is talking about, which I so love how you explained it with the light, once you get working, once you get going, and this fire starts to get lit, you start to have some really cool experiences, and you start to get this passion, like what Norma was talking about. That's where it comes in. Just like faith without works is dead, works without miracles is dead. And so if you're going to continue in the space of work looking for your miracle in just this accountability, I'm just going through the motions type of energy, and you don't fit in, at some point in your work, find that place that Norma's talking about where it becomes effortless for you to just do. Like it's just a part of who you are. When you're on the phone with somebody, you hear a cough, you say, oh my goodness, breathe on your chest, some eucalyptus on your sinus, a little bit of frankincense on top of your head, like get it done. You know, like that's just who I am. It becomes a part of you to where the work, the burden is lifted of it, and it just becomes who you are. And then that kind of passion creates miracles. So, and then, like Seth talked about on the call before, miracles create a whole nother level of faith. So you're constantly going through this space, and accountability is a necessary piece of it. And how we implement accountability in our organization is, first of all, understanding where it's needed and not forcing it on people that are not asking for it, but being open to receive. It's the mentality of work with those that move towards you and mentor the committed. The committed are who I am doing accountability with, and they are the ones that come asking for it, and that's when I teach them, okay, I'm here for you. This is the steps. There's a system. We go through the system, and in that I am motivating the passion.
Thank you. I like that you bring that up because I think that it's, critical too. As I look at anyone that's achieved anything great in life, there was levels of accountability there. And I like that you talked about that as being part of the faith triangle that we talked about last week on the belief call, because I think it is part of those skills. And I think in order for us to lead the way we want to lead, we need to have that skill of accountability down, And, I like that you're talking about mentoring people. So you mentor people. That's part of the accountability that you practice in your business. And I love that you bring that up. But, I want to throw something out there, too, that if I want people to be accountable to me, then I'm asking them to do something, then I need to be accountable to someone else. And I think sometimes we get to a rank, like I noticed for me, that it's like, oh, I've got this. I don't need to do weekly calls with Seth anymore. I've got this. And I lose that accountability. So how do I ask other people to do things that I'm not willing to do, right? And so I think that a way to practice the accountability is, yes, you mentor people, but then you also make sure that you are mentored by someone else too, that accountability goes both ways. All right, who is after Janet?
I think it was me,
Courtney. Remember what order you guys were in again, so just go.
I think it was me, Courtney. It's Julianne. So, sorry, you're going to have to repeat the question again. What was the question?
Just what ways do you practice accountability in your business? Like, do you get mentors? Do you, what do you have Facebook groups? Like, how do you have that accountability to reach your goals in your business?
Well, I think for me, some of the things that I've done is I have hired mentors. They have not been inside of doTERRA, but I've hired mentors because what I've realized at any level is that our mindset, it's personal development, because all the issues that we have are because of a mindset or a belief that we've created about ourselves that we're not able to accomplish. And so I've gotten different mentors, or I've taken classes that have taught me ideas of things that I do on a daily basis. So I guess for me, I've taken, I've had mentors. I'm in a course right now teaching about emotional healing. It's a year-long course. But what I'm finding is that there's certain things that I do each day that are very similar probably to the 631 that I feel benefit me and develop me personally so that I am able to achieve my, highest potential, basically. So it's something that I call an AM schedule, and I know it's been talked about a lot, but that's some of the things that I do. I like check boxes. I like to write down certain things that I feel like if I don't accomplish anything else today, if I accomplish these certain things, I know I have given myself that accountability to accomplish and become the person that I'm wanting to become. So I guess, accountability can look differently to lots of different people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like accountability with my husband has been huge. One of the things I think I made a commitment to my Heavenly Father a few weeks ago that I would exercise 6 days a week until the end of November. Now, obviously, that's easier said than done, and we've talked about this a little bit already on the call, but I feel like when I made that commitment, to me, it's my higher power that is my accountability partner. And I am wanting certain blessings, and I feel like he's asked me to do this. And so because I am very committed to, saying, okay, he has promised me that he will do this if I do this, but I've got to do my part, and I've got to do my part first and show that I can. It's kind of, an accountability partner in essence. And so, there's one night that I was exercising at 1:30 in the morning because I was doing a booth up in Kansas City, and we did it every single day from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. I have a baby, 1-year-old, and it was exhausting. But I had made that commitment, and I was not going to falter because that was my, accountability partner that I would be doing this 6 days a week. And so I think we all find our accountability partners in different ways. My spouse has been awesome to, he goes with me and we go together. And there's some mornings when I have a rough time getting up and he helps me, and then other times he does. And so whether it be a AM schedule, your higher power, your spouse, definitely I feel like we all need it in different aspects of our life just because it keeps us on our toes, like you said. So like I said, the AM schedule is probably my biggest thing that I make sure I do every day to help keep me accountable. So
thank you. I appreciate that. And we are running out of time, so all the diamonds and above, whoever's left that would like to make a comment, please do. But don't worry about order. Just there's only 2 minutes left, so anyone that would like to
I'll
throw
make
something
a quick
out,
comment.
please do.
This is Desiree. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I recently got a passion planner. So I just want to give a practical tool. I love that planner. I think I got it for $13. It's the kindness to put the data in, but that has helped me to be extremely organized in my weekly commitments. And I've also in the back mapped out my organization, like my builders, their builders, and their builders, and so forth. And so I'm able to scan easily, like who are my core committed builders in my organization that I should spend time with. And then what I do is I do regular mentoring with them, and then I make it a point to have 2 new interactions a week because I do 70% of my time mentoring and about 30% of my time meeting new people. So when I use that and I see it on a weekly level, because the planner comes out weekly, and there's so many like points where you write in and reflect too, it's kind of become my journal and my accountability partner and my calendar, because the phone calendar is great, but it doesn't compare to actually writing it all out. So that's just a little tip for you. That's really helped me to be organized in my business.
I love that. And what was it called?
It's called the Passion Planner. It's passionplanner.com.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have
Courtney?
a final comment?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I got it. This is really quick. It's just a simple thing that I think about all the time. That this is like for my accountability is and I you know me, you've heard me talk about it 100 times because it's a core of my belief system, is thoughts, emotions, actions, results. If you want the result, you have to first create it in your mind. And there is such a power to planning. Like Desiree just said, she plans out her week. She knows she's going to succeed on Monday because she's planned out her week. There's something that happens inside the brain and the psyche, and I'm not a genius. I can't tell you the physics or the chemistry of it, but I can tell you that when I decide the night before, or the day before, or 2 days before, when I plan out what I'm going to do, and I put those things in place, then when that time comes, the decision to do and to fulfill and to follow through is so much easier. It almost happens automatically because it's already, the path has already been created. I already made that path. I paved that way. So now when I'm on the road, it's just, oh, that's where I'm going. Versus a situation where let's say I come home from work and we're working a regular job, and I've got to make a decision. Am I going to go sit on the couch and relax, or am I going to build my pipeline? And if I've decided ahead of time and I've put it in place, and these are the ways that I'm going to get my points throughout the week, and this is what I'm going to do, then I come in, and this is the time I have, man, I'm effective in that time because I've already planned my success. And so thoughts create emotions, which dictate actions, which will inevitably create your results. If you want the result, you first have to create the thought and the plan, which will dictate the behavior that will cause it. And so plan it out. And
right.
then lastly, put things in
part
place.
Of that accountability.
Put things in place. Anybody that's ever mentored me or talked to me on the phone, I've told them, hey, if I don't get back with you by this time, call me back. And many of you are laughing right now because I do it all the time. So if I haven't gotten back with you, follow up with me. Because that's my way of making sure that I'm creating accountability points all throughout my life and all throughout my activity every day.
I love it. Thank you. All right,
hey,
anyone else? Yep.
Hey, so I'm just going to give everybody some quick things because if it hasn't been communicated this clearly, let me just communicate it clearly. If you want to succeed in this, you have to be accountable to somebody other than yourself. And I think that, and to something other than yourself. So for example, we've talked about a lot of things. I'm just going to give you some just basics. The first thing is figure out what your goal is in doTERRA and declare it. Declare it to your upline, declare it to your downline, declare it to yourself, your family, your friends. Make it public. The minute that it becomes public, you are now being held accountable. Secondly, find someone that can help hold you accountable to what you know you should do. So, for example, this still, no matter what happens, your success in doTERRA still comes down to the 631. And so even if they don't have to be your upline, they don't have to be your downline, they could be a friend, you need to tell someone what your plan is to get to where you want to get, and then schedule regular accountability with those people, whoever they may be, and so that they can hold you accountable to what you're doing. Third, you probably need to get some mentoring to make sure that the plan that you've put in place is going to get you where you want to go. So find mentoring from someone who's done it before you to make sure that you're actually going to do it. Fourth, get some tools, just similar to what we've heard on here, like the My Daily Edge app, the planner that Desiree talked about. The 631 notebook is a great thing. But get tools that help you do that. Everyone who follows a diet has to get some sort of tools to help them do that. Whether it's counting calories or whatever it happens to be. And so those are just some quick tips that are going to help you realize that. I think the first thing is just recognize that it is important. In fact, it's more than important. It's critical. And if you just kind of take those, I just gave you four pieces of advice, but that'll help you stay accountable,
right,
and reach your goals.
And I'll just go ahead and close with this too. I appreciate that, Seth. That in the beginning we first brought up the word accountability. It's like, oh, and people dread it or whatever. But really, living with accountability is actually very liberating, and it gives you the opportunity to throw out the need to impress or the blaming others or anything like that. And when mistakes happen, you just get to own it, and you get to determine the results that you want. And it's a much easier and less stressful way to build your business when you have that accountability. So I hope everybody takes Seth's, challenges, those recommendations, go through those steps, and get those things in place and get to work. Thank you, everyone, for being on the call and for all of those who participated. And I wish all of you a very happy and successful week. Thanks, everybody.